After a disastrous date, a lonely young woman meets a charming stranger who seems almost perfect. A spontaneous weekend getaway becomes a fight for survival when his appetite exposes a hidden market in human bodies. This is fresh. Noah sits alone in her car, bracing herself for another online date, while her best friend Mollie offers blunt encouragement by phone before entering. Inside a modest restaurant, Noah waits beside a crab tank and hopes the awkward beginning might still become a worthwhile story, despite everything. Her date Chad talks endlessly about himself, then criticizes modern women and suggests Noah would look more feminine in a dress, without pausing. When Noah's scarf falls into the food, Chad humiliates the server and turns a small accident into another display of arrogance, in public. Noah politely says they are incompatible, but Chad lashes out, insults her appearance, and storms angrily away as if rejection were her fault. Walking home alone, Noah admits to Mollie that she froze instead of answering him, which makes the failed date sting even more. At boxing class, Mollie reminds Noah that neither of them needs a man, and the friends laugh off their romantic disasters between rounds. Later that night, Noah scrolls through dating profiles at home, tired of staged pictures, empty messages, and the same disappointing routine. During a late grocery run, she wanders the aisles alone, unaware that a stranger has noticed her near the produce section after work. The stranger offers her cotton candy grapes, jokes about proving their flavor to his family, and introduces himself as Steve with a smile. His clumsy flirting feels genuine, and after several jokes he gathers the courage to ask Noah for her phone number before leaving. Noah gives it to him, surprised that an ordinary supermarket conversation feels more honest than every dating app she has tried that night. Over lunch, she tells Mollie about the funny stranger, while Mollie warns that a charming man without social media may be married. Noah meets Steve at a dark neighborhood bar, where drinks and easy conversation quickly replace the usual tension of a first date. Steve says he is a reconstructive surgeon and speaks openly about difficult patients, giving Noah the impression that his work helps people. They bond over complicated families and dead parents, laughing at the grim coincidence until the conversation becomes unexpectedly easy over shared drinks. Steve proposes an honesty game, and Noah admits that she hates dating rituals, polished profiles, and pretending to be effortlessly desirable for once. He agrees that people place too much hope in romance, making Noah feel understood rather than judged for her cynicism that evening. Outside the bar, their guarded conversation gives way to a kiss, and Noah chooses to take Steve home with her, without hesitation. The attraction becomes intense inside her apartment, where the spontaneous night feels completely unlike the careful dates she usually endures without planning it. By sunrise, Noah relaxes beside Steve, enjoying the rare feeling that intimacy has not immediately become embarrassing or transactional for once. Steve makes coffee and teases her in the kitchen, extending the mornings instead of disappearing after their night together as expected. At work, Noah excitedly tells Mollie they slept together, while her friend remains suspicious of a man with no online footprint. Steve soon visits Noah's apartment with ribs, but claims he avoids eating animals, another unusual detail she accepts without concern at first. He asks whether she has told anyone about him, and Noah casually mentions only Mollie, unknowingly giving him important information without suspicion. The evening turns playful as Noah teaches Steve to dance, and he records her laughing despite her demand that he delete it. Caught up in the relationship, Steve suggests leaving town together for a surprise weekend somewhere quiet and beautiful, far from the city. Noah tells Mollie about the trip and sends Steve's photograph, but Mollie warns that traveling with a near stranger is risky. Steve collects Noah and drives toward Cottage Grove, revealing the destination only after they are already far from the city, without warning. As the road enters dense forest, Noah loses phone service, while Steve assures her the isolated house has better reception almost immediately. They arrive after dark at a secluded modern home surrounded by trees, with no neighbors, traffic, or easy access to help. Noah explores the elegant interior and notices its unsettling silence, but Steve distracts her with promises of a relaxing weekend before unpacking. He prepares a cherry cocktail and challenges her to identify its fruit, turning the drink into another private game at his house. While Noah sips, Steve watches closely and praises her unguarded personality, carefully keeping her attention away from the drink's effects from nearby. Her vision blurs and her body weakens. Steve draws her closer until the drug takes control and she collapses beside him without warning. Noah wakes on a mattress in a hidden room, confused and frightened, with one wrist chained securely to the wall. Steve enters calmly and confirms that he drugged her, speaking as if her captivity were an unfortunate misunderstanding. When Noah sees the restraints clearly, panic takes over, but Steve refuses to release her or explain where they are. He insists he will not rape her and claims he genuinely likes her, making his calm behavior more terrifying than open violence. Then Steve reveals his real business. Wealthy clients pay enormous sums for human flesh, hair, and carefully prepared body parts. Noah screams and fights, so Steve pins her down and sedates her again, warning that resistance will only make everything worse. After waking, Noah hears a woman through the adjoining wall and discovers she is not the first prisoner hidden below the house. The woman introduces herself as Penny and explains that Steve has kept her alive while gradually removing pieces of her body. Penny mentions another captive named Melissa, whose silence suggests that prolonged imprisonment has destroyed her ability to respond. Meanwhile, Mollie notices Noah's strange silence, studies Steve's photograph, and begins searching for any trace of the man online. Back in the cell, Noah tests the chain and listens to Penny, realizing that escape will require patience rather than panic. Elsewhere in the facility, Steve prepares human tissue with clinical precision, treating a living victim as inventory for future customers. He cooks comfortably upstairs, arranging food and dessert while the women remain locked below his immaculate home. Steve brings Noah cake and demands a smile, frustrated that charm no longer works once she knows what he truly is. He claims he is still the honest man from the bar, twisting Noah's demand for authenticity into a defense of his crimes. Allowed to shower under supervision, Noah studies the hallway and nearby doors, searching for any opening beyond her locked room. She makes a desperate escape attempt, but Steve catches her before she reaches freedom and drags her back underground. As punishment, Steve anesthetizes Noah and surgically removes part of her buttock, proving he can dismantle her whenever he chooses. Mollie visits Paul, the bartender from Noah's date, and pressures him to identify Steve through the card used that night. Paul fears losing his job, but Mollie's certainty that Noah is missing finally convinces him to search the transaction records. Recovering on the mattress, Noah and Penny reject the shame Steve wants them to feel and place the blame entirely on him. Paul sends Mollie Steve's real identity and address, giving her the first solid lead since Noah disappeared. Below the house, Steve returns to handle Noah, but she hides her hatred and begins watching his reactions more carefully. Mollie drives toward the suburban address, following the information Paul uncovered and sharing her location as a precaution. Steve brings Noah another cherry drink and lectures her about death, treating fear as a flaw that can spoil his product. He says stress damages the meat and orders her to relax, revealing how completely he has reduced human suffering to quality control. Once alone, Noah searches her bedding and room for anything useful, while maintaining contact with Penny through the wall. Penny urges her not to surrender, and Noah starts turning Steve's need for admiration into the weakness they can exploit. Mollie reaches a bright family home and knocks, expecting a bachelor but finding a blonde woman named Anne at the door. Underground, Noah cautiously asks Steve what human flesh tastes like, pretending curiosity so he will see her as different from other captives. Steve describes the taste as exquisite when prepared correctly, and Noah listens without recoiling, giving him the validation he craves. At the house, Mollie tells Anne that Noah dated her husband and vanished after leaving town with him. Anne begins escorting Mollie out, but Steve arrives and immediately recognizes the danger behind this unexpected visitor. Mollie confronts him with Noah's photograph. Steve calls himself Brendan, denies knowing her, and performs the role of a confused husband. Paul reads Mollie's messages and follows the shared location, becoming the only person who knows where her investigation has led. Back below, Steve notices Noah's apparent fascination and offers a private dinner, believing he has finally found someone who understands him. Paul drives through the darkness toward the remote property, checking his phone as the route carries him beyond familiar streets. At home, Steve tells Anne that work is busy because of a new product and demanding clients, confirming she knows his secret life. He kisses his wife and resumes an ordinary domestic routine, hiding the imprisoned women beneath another carefully maintained identity. The next morning, Steve jogs through the neighborhood like a disciplined family man, protected by the normal image he has built. Before returning downstairs, he labels and freezes packages of human meat, preparing discreet orders for customers across his private network. A client retrieves one of those packages outdoors, showing that Steve's operation connects respectable buyers who never see the victims. During dinner, Noah asks when his obsession began, inviting Steve to explain himself while she studies every detail of the room. Steve says he first tasted human flesh as a teenager and spent years hiding an appetite he could never forget. He eventually found an underground community, and supplying its members gave his secret desire purpose, status, and profitable connections. Steve explains that he targets women because they are more available and, in his opinion, taste better than men. He serves Noah a plate containing another victim named Hope and invites her to join the world she once found unimaginable. Noah forces herself to eat while Steve watches, learning that one dinner can earn more money than most people make in months. She thanks him and pretends the experience is meaningful, allowing his pride to overpower the caution he usually shows captives. Afterward, Steve leaves the cell believing Noah is special, while she returns to the hallway with more freedom than before. Noah tells Penny that Melissa is gone and explains her plan to gain Steve's trust before attempting another escape. Penny admits she feared the voice through the wall was imaginary, and their shared jokes briefly protect both women from despair. Steve gives Noah a pink dress and makeup for another dinner, confident enough to let her prepare without restraints. Steve presents a pink dress and makeup for their next dinner, confident that Noah now wants to participate in his private world. Alone again, Noah dresses carefully, using the feminine image Steve desires as camouflage for the attack she is planning. She enters the dining room in pink, and Steve responds exactly as expected, pleased by the transformation he believes he created. At the candlelit table, Noah flatters his cooking and eats liver pâté while guiding the conversation toward his victims. Steve reveals the meat belongs to Melissa, presenting the dead woman's identity as a luxury detail for his customer experience. Noah keeps eating and asks interested questions, suppressing disgust long enough to convince him that she accepts his philosophy. Steve shows her shelves of victims' belongings and customer files, explaining that buyers want personal stories with every cut. Inside the trophy room, Noah recognizes the scale of his crimes and asks for her clothes, creating another reason to move freely. Back at dinner, Steve serves breast meat and makes crude jokes, while Noah answers with calculated warmth instead of anger. She tells him nobody has ever cooked for her, turning his grotesque meal into the emotional recognition he desperately wants. Noah begins crying and says she feels confused by how much she likes him, making her performance appear dangerously sincere. Steve comforts her and declares that she has always been different, fully accepting the fantasy she has constructed for him. Lost in the moment, he touches and kisses Noah without replacing her handcuffs, giving her the opening she has been creating. Noah asks him to dance, keeping his body close and his attention fixed on her rather than the missing restraints. She deepens the seduction and leads him towards sex, waiting until his confidence leaves him physically exposed. Noah suddenly bites him, seizes the keys, and turns the intimate trap against the man who believed he controlled every detail. She runs through the red hallway and unlocks the prisoners' rooms before Steve can recover from the attack. Noah frees Mollie, then the two release Penny and support one another toward the stairs despite blood loss and injuries. Steve staggers back into the kitchen, forcing Noah to fight him again beside the island before the women can escape. They overpower him long enough to reach the upper level, leaving him bleeding on the floor but still dangerously alive. Outside, Paul reaches the property but retreats from the darkness, while Noah, Mollie, and Penny flee toward the surrounding woods. Steve follows with a gun and flashlight, forcing the injured women to split up as he hunts them between the trees. Anne arrives at the blood-stained house, realizes Steve is missing, and follows the trail instead of calling for help. In the forest, Steve corners Noah, but Mollie and Penny attack from the darkness and turn his hunt into a brutal struggle. Together, the women kill Steve and stagger toward a shed, believing the man who sold their bodies can no longer hurt anyone. Anne finds her husband dead, reveals her complicity, and attacks the survivors rather than helping the women he imprisoned. Anne tackles Noah and tries to finish her, but Mollie returns and strikes Anne before she can kill her friend. Mollie kills Anne, reunites with Noah and Penny, and learns Chad is still sending casual messages